Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast, a space to pause, breathe, and come back to yourself, even in the middle of a full and busy life. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and in each episode, we explore mindfulness for real life, simple practices, reflections, tools to help you feel grounded, present, and connected to what matters most to you. So let's settle in and let's get centered. Welcome back to the Center in the City podcast. I'm your host, Wade Brill, and I am so glad you are here. And if you are new to the podcast, a special welcome. I'm really excited to announce Mindfulness in May is just around the corner, and I would love for you to join me and other amazing like-minded humans around the world as we meet online over the month of May to practice mindfulness and meditation. And we're going to use the inspiration of Mindfulness in May and the spring energy that is here in the Northern Hemisphere and how that can support us claiming our own attention, learning how to be with our emotions, how to have capacity for our thoughts, but not get lost in the spirals. So if you are called to start or deepen or reconnect to your own meditation and mindfulness practice, I welcome you to join us. You can check out more information at wadebrill.com/mindfulnessinmay, or check the show notes for the link. Early bird pricing is around until April 20th, so claim your spot today. In today's episode, we talk with Anna Preston, who is a fellow life coach who supports therapists and other coaches and practitioners and women who are ready to take up space, to trust themselves, and to build a life that feels aligned. She's also the founder of Wild & Co., which is a community offering retreats, movement, and spaces for meaningful connection. I wanted to have Anna on the podcast because I got connected with her via the interwebs, via social media, and I loved her energy, and she inspired me because she is an American who is living abroad in Spain. Watching her build her life abroad, raise her son, grow her family, build her community, build her practice, and yet still have roots in America and be able to live this full life was very much of an expander for me. So I wanted to have her on the podcast to talk about what it's like to live and embed yourself in a different culture, what it's like from your own identity to start to let a place change you and morph you, and what that looks like specifically to be a mom and how you decide to raise and run your family when living in a different culture. If you are somebody who's interested in living abroad or interested in having a family one day and maybe moving away from your community, I welcome you to listen to this podcast and really allow yourself to think about what are nuggets of wisdom that you want to take away and integrate into your life. So wherever you are listening to this episode, I welcome you to settle in and let's get centered. Anna, welcome to the Center in the City podcast.
Thanks for having me, Wade. I'm so happy that we get to have this conversation today.
I was just saying before we hit record of we're both in Sitges here in Spain, and we were going to try to do this episode in person, but schedules happen. So we're here on Zoom, but it's so fun to know that you're just a few miles away.
I know, I love it. Small world.
Yeah, and would love to hear what does being centered mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's for some reason when I think about the word centered, I think about a buoy, like in the water. And I think about, because sometimes when you can think about centered, you sometimes think like, oh, it's like there, like a rock or something. It's really like sturdy. But when I think about a buoy, I think there is that part where it's kind of anchored in, but there's a bit of like flow and flux with the part above water. Um, and so when I think about centered, I think about that, like this ability to have roots in something, to have some anchorage, but to also have some flux and kind of flexibility within what that looks like, because, anything can like offset us at any moment.
I love that visual because I normally think of a mountain when I think of
Okay.
centeredness. But right when you said the buoy and this visual of the buoy, how it bounces and flows through water, I was like, oh, yeah, that feels
Mhm.
so good to have that juxtaposition of the anchoredness. And yet there's still this ability for us to ride these waves because that is what life is about, riding these waves.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have you on not only because you just offer so much wisdom, but I also really respect how, again, through the lens of social media, but through, your ability to say, I want to live in Spain and I'm going to raise my kid here in Spain. And I'm curious, like, what motivated you to want to live abroad and raise your family?
What motivated me most, I think, was realizing that something wasn't in alignment at the time. So I'm from California and I was working, the big corporate job. I was running my coaching business on the side. I had two phones and yeah, I was really hustling. And I had this cute little beach bungalow with a little ocean view. And I remember many times thinking like, is this it? Is this like we work really hard to get to this place where we question it? I didn't have much time to enjoy the things that I valued, highly, like going to watch the sunset or hanging out with my friends. And I had this calling and this kind of desire to go back to Spain, which is a place that I do have extended family here, so I've kind of grown up coming all my life. But Europe in general, I had this sense of like something about the quality of life there, the pace, the way that they view work, the way that they prioritize relationships feels really important. And I was at this season in my life where I felt really like something's got to give. And I love the like corporate baddie, like kind of climbing the ladder. There are, I always think like, oh, this, the whole kind of get up and going to work and feeling, I worked like a 10-hour day, amazing. Like I kind of like that in some ways. And I appreciate it because it takes grit. But I was being called to just relax and like soften. And I think it took a bit of inner work to get to that place too of really understanding like, okay, I'm like on the verge of burning out. I don't feel fully aligned in my job. The money's like great, but I'm not like making use of it. I'm just like working my butt off. And so Spain was like kind of this little whisper that got like bigger and bigger and bigger and was just like Spain, 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 like quality of life, slower paced living. So that's kind of how it started.
And then what motivated you to be like, okay, we're gonna raise our son here?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought about what I wanted for my son, and I thought, like, I can always bring him to California because life is fine there. That's my home. That's where I'm from. But I thought about, kids here are kind of, they're just like everyone else. Whereas I think like in the States, sometimes we'll look at like kids are, they're kids and we've got the kid activities and adults are the adults and they've got their adult things. And in Spain, there's this real blend, a lot of Europe, this real blend of like the kids come with me to lunch, to dinner. I don't care. We're doing whatever we want to do. We want to adventure. Um, and I really appreciated that. I loved the kind of thought of going to these plazas that, a lot of Europe has, in Spain especially, these little center points where there's little restaurants, and then with, in the middle is like this play area. And so it's like you can go sit down and have a coffee and let your kid run around. And yeah, I mean, I think it just really felt like I had certain values, and those values aligned more with Spain than anywhere else, like at this part of in this part of my life.
I love that you are mentioning your values and recognizing that when you're in California, you were having like like, is this it moment and feeling something that was out of alignment. And then there was this like, it sounds like a curiosity, a pull of like, I know I've been able to taste what life is like in Europe, what other choices are. And so when you finally made the move and your family's, settled here, what sort of shifts have you started to notice in your own body, mind, heart, now actually living what you had been craving?
Mm. Well, sometimes if you move too fast, you like miss the thing that you like wanted. So this is still a work in progress for me is to remember that like look down at my feet. Like this is where you wanted to be. I remember just kind of a side note when we first got, first I moved to England and then here to Spain, and I was like, I had like all the time in the world in the morning, and people would like have coffee for like 2 hours. And I was on this like, we gotta go. Like life is life and we're wasting our time, right? Like let's like quick 30 minutes, easy peasy. And so I think when I finally got the things that I was like craving and desiring, I was like, this is too slow. You know what I mean? Like it's too relaxed. Everything is just a little too, all about the kids, all about this. And so I felt like that was something that I'm still having to remember all the time. Like these are like come back to the values that you had because you're like living them now. And I think that's something, it can just be hard to know like what does that look like for each person? Everyone is so different. But I think that's something that I've had to kind of remember in this process and that it changes. And I think having a kid and coming here in Spain, I've what's changed for me has been a bit more, I think my like expectations of everything are lower. And that used to be something that was really scary. There's such as like a lot more permission around life and around what enoughness looks like and around like, when you when you move abroad and you're like trying to make new friends and you're a mom or whatever, you just moved abroad, like it's a lot. And I think it's just like trying to allow myself to be like, today was enough, like, and I didn't do much. Or I met this person and maybe they're not like, bam, at the top of my list of like, this is the most amazing friend I'll ever have. Like, but it's a friend and they're nice, right? So kind of those are some pieces I think. So I rambled a bit, but that's, I can happy to go into any of those more. But yeah.
Okay, you're going into territory that I think is so juicy because, in American culture, that I think is a huge fear of a lot of people. Like, if I slow down, what's going to happen? Or if I slow down, I'm not going to be able to speed back up. Or if I
Mhm.
slow down, I'm going to fall behind. Or if I slow down, I'm actually going to like feel what's here and I'm going to realize like I'm not happy, or I'm going to realize there's pain or whatever it is. Or if I slow down, that means I'm not as worthy as everybody else. Or, there's so many different sort of beliefs we can get caught into. I know I have had my relationship to that growing up in New York City and this idea of like, well, what does it mean not to be busy? Who am I if I'm not busy and schlepping around the city and
Or
like
dead. Yeah.
making like all of these appointments and, like just creating so much more what I call hurry sickness that then that's needed. And so when you do slow down and then you feel that tension of also like that path you've been on and that there's like a lot of times like discomfort, and but then there's finally permission to actually settle into the slowness. I'm curious, like, what for you when you've settled in, when you've given yourself permission for there to be enough, for that day to be enough, for to take up the spaciousness, what has then happened for you?
Mm. I mean, I think it just takes a lot of like practice to get to that place. And I just think that there are some days where it just doesn't happen. Like some days that really inner achiever of mine comes in and is like, you didn't do it and you like failed today, right? So there's always those moments in that happens. But yeah, like you said, I think there it's the key is kind of allowing there to be the space in between that like really uncomfortable space that like none of us like, where we have to wait to kind of feel the benefits of what just happened, right? So it's like, okay, we feel we're doing the opposite of what we know to do, which is like, all right, I'm just gonna like hang out on the beach and like not do anything for this morning. And then the discomfort comes in. It's like, you can't do that. Like, you need to be doing things. That's how we're worthy in life. Like, right. You hear those voices. And I think it's just a practice of like, okay, being with those voices and being like, okay, they're just like passing thoughts, like clouds that are coming by. And then, yeah, just having to sit, with maybe that looks like some deep breaths or whatever that looks like, and sitting with those moments. And then after, right, that little point after, where maybe it doesn't feel fully like a success. Like maybe you're not feeling like, oh my God, like I feel amazing now, but you maybe feel a shift. Like, okay, I didn't die, quote unquote, right? And I think that's something that the reason that there's kind of quotations there is because I think there is this kind of like life or death feeling sometimes with a lot of us when it comes to like being productive. It's like that keeps us in the loop. We're surviving if we're like doing. And so sometimes it feels like if we don't survive, we'll like die and like everything will go away. So yeah, I think it's just, watching the clouds go by and then seeing that there's a little bit of blue in the sky. And
Yeah.
maybe that's it.
Yeah. It's interesting. For my own like nervous system, I've noticed I've had to work really hard at unwinding from the hurry sickness and that feeling of needing to do faster or be busier to find my worth. And I have to tell myself, like this last month of traveling and living abroad, I can have joy and ease and success at the same time. Like I had to really pause and allow my nervous system to receive and be like, wait, you've had one of your like most profitable, like abundant months, and you've been able to live abroad and do the things that bring you joy and happiness. And it's able to happen from a place of ease, not hustle. And
Mm,
to like fully allow my nervous system to receive that because it's so conditioned to think it needs to operate differently to get different results.
mm.
And that
So
way of
how,
working, it doesn't work.
yeah. And how have you like, so how has that shift happened for you? How did you manage to, I always think about it, it's like us talking to our like nervous system. Like I always think like all the parts of us are like little characters and we're like, okay, listen, things are gonna be different. But yeah, how did you do that? I'm curious.
I mean, it's not just like a step process. I mean, I've been trying to track it because I know this is some things that I help my clients with, but a lot of it is about building inner trust.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is about recognizing where fear comes from, where tightening comes from, where the constriction comes from, and noticing when I my body wants to operate in those modes and where can I start to choose differently? And the choosing differently has been a bunch of experiments in like little tiny experiments of building trust within my body and mind and choices and responsibility and follow through and that I can then tell myself that like, oh, this mode works. When we rest back into this mode, we actually can still survive and actually thrive. And the other
Mm-hmm.
way, we're in like survival mode the whole time. So I'm constantly still, I mean, this has been years of me like reprogramming. I will say this has been game changing for me. And it's something that I see is a lot of our work, like everybody's work. It's learning how to reprogram and kindly meet our nervous system and the stories and the patterns that live within and live within our thoughts and be able to change them, but not just change them from our thinking. We have to actually build trust within our nervous system, within our body. It becomes very somatic. But I will say it's game changing and it's something that I've really learned to help my clients with as well. I'm curious for you, growing up in America, having Spanish roots, thinking about how you want to raise your family and like how you want to manage time. I'm curious, do you and your partner attune to a schedule when thinking about raising your son, or are you guys like, let's flow with what's happening? Or, because I feel like in America, you talk to a lot of parents and it's like, we have our schedule, we have our nap schedule, we have our eating schedule, and when I've spoken to some friends who also have Spanish roots who live in America, they're like, I need a schedule because otherwise I can't work. I need to know when I'm breastfeeding. Otherwise, I don't know when I can schedule my meetings or, block time on my calendar. So this is a very interesting insight for me to hear, not being a mom yet, very much like stepping into that chapter.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to hear your experience with having both of these cultures inside of you.
Yeah, I think it can be like difficult at times because there's the push and pull of both sides and the knowing of like both styles. At the end of the day, I think when it comes to raising a kid in that sense, it's like it depends. Yeah, what kind of job do you have? Do you have the flexibility of scheduling when you want? Do you have to work at an actual, job for someone else? So there's so many different factors to that. Are you a single parent? Are you not? But I think so I like love flexible structure. I feel like I've been able to find that middle point, having the influence of the States in me and the European side as well. So I think about it as like there's like two bookends, and then like the books are like not organized and ordered, but there's like structure there's like a container and there's like a holding. So I try to keep like certain parts of our schedule with the kid like very organized. Maybe that's just like he eats lunch at like noon and we try to eat dinner at 7 p.m. But like whatever happened, like if he decides to nap at 2 p.m., but really it was supposed to be 3:30, like that's okay. Like so I try to have little pinpoints within our schedule all the time of like this I know is probably going to work best. We keep it at 12, 7 p.m. meals, bedtime at 9 p.m., whatever. And the rest, like whatever happens, happens, right? I think if we get too kind of focused on a schedule, we don't get to like enjoy life and then it doesn't become as intuitive. I think that isn't, everyone's experience. Like some people are like, oh my God, I thrive on a schedule. Don't tell me otherwise. And it's kind of like, do you? But I think in Spain, most people here are very like, they'll like laugh. They'll be like, just bring him. I'm like, but it's like 11 p.m. Like he should be sleeping. They're like, come on, there's fireworks. Like they take things here. It's not a big deal. I think that they really view like they'll sleep when they're tired and like it's okay. That kind of mindset, the longer you're here, the more you start to believe that. And and I think it's a little bit scary for someone who's been in like a kind of the American mindset where it can feel like that's like too irresponsible or it's too casual or it's too relaxed. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think if you come abroad, you kind of just have to work a bit with like what is here and then build your own what works for you within that.
How do you connect to your intuition being a mama and like following and knowing that there's maybe this tension of those different voices that's like, you're being irresponsible right now, to like then this like Spanish part of you that's like, yeah, we flow. And, who cares if a kid goes to bed at 9 p.m. when like maybe an American parent is like, what? Like my kid's in bed
Yeah.
at 7, I'm
7,
having
yeah.
dinner at 5 p.m. And of course, like people listening, there's no one way to raise
Right.
a kid. Yes,
Absolutely.
do what you need, but yeah, curious to hear how you tap into your mama intuition.
Yeah, it's a good question. I love like visuals. So I really try when I feel a bit confused, when I feel that like I'm being tugged in both sides and kind of, "Oh, what's the right thing to do here? Oh my gosh," or they're saying this, but I believe this. I like look at my feet on the ground. I'm like, okay, I'm like right here. Like I'm like standing right here in this moment in time. And like what feels like the easiest thing for my nervous system to feel right now, what feels like the less impact for everyone. So I kind of try to use questions like that to help make decisions. Because yeah, my intuition might say one thing, but if my mind is super busy, it'll like quickly override it. It does take rest and time and pause to like tap into the intuition. But I do try to like, yeah, focus on the feet and have a moment of stillness there where maybe there's like an answer that comes up. Um, that's usually how I try to tune in.
I think that's beautiful because it's like you're creating that pause for yourself to listen to gain some information and not just be on autopilot of what like the head is saying or who's the loudest, which is for most people the mind,
Yeah.
and to get curious with yourself, ask those questions to then be like, okay, what actually does feel right for me in this moment?
Yeah, and not like force, an answer too. I think sometimes it's about just like intuition also is it's always there, right? But sometimes it's just a bit not as loud as we want it and need it to be. And so it's kind of like I try to let answers come to me too in that moment. Like, it's amazing what 2 minutes of like pausing or stillness can do for us. Like it really does help bring kind of, okay, this feels really aligned. Okay, something feels off here. All right, then we pivot, right?
Mm,
Like look at my feet again. Where do I need to move from this place?
yeah. And for you, what does alignment typically feel like when you know something's like, yep, that's locked in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love that. I know when you said it, Reggie, I was like, it's like a little seatbelt and you go click, like, but it's not always like that. Like sometimes alignment is really subtle and then we like kind of miss it or we like are like, are we sure? Right. So I think going back to the mind, it can be so loud that sometimes it's hard to like find like, was that alignment? I think so, but I do kind of think about it as this, there's like ease around alignment. There's just a bit more ease. It's a little bit louder than discomfort or than, oh, maybe this doesn't work or kind of questioning in some sense. So, yeah, I would picture it as like a little bit of when I feel like I'm locked into like a chair, I'm sitting in a chair and I feel the support. I'm like, that feels aligned. Yeah.
So as you're raising your son here, it's like, how do you practice staying centered when you don't have much family around and you're navigating this world of grounding your family and building a business and taking care of yourself and your relationship with your partner? Like, what does that get to look like for you these days?
Yeah, because it's a lot of things. There's a lot of things floating, right? And I think most parents would feel that. It's like, how do you find time to like feel that or stay centered? I mean, I just go back to my values and my priorities. I think being outside in nature always helps me. Like hiking really helps me. So, a lot of the times I can't do that on my own. I have to bring my little one with me, which is like fine. Like let's both do it. Like I need to feel centered and being out in nature and like letting nature kind of hold, some of my worries or like just all the happenings in life feels like a good opportunity for me to unplug and let go. And if not, I'm really big right now into like I think most parents also it's like yeah, like 2 to 5 minutes is enough, is a lot. Like it's actually amazing what can happen. 10 minutes, you're like, well, I've just cleaned the half of the house. Like, so I think it's finding like 5 minutes when I feel a little bit overwhelmed. And I just try to find 5 minutes, 2 minutes where I can close my eyes and just like connect to my body or like my inner child and kind of, just be like, what do I need right now? Like what is working in this moment? And I think that helps me be centered. And I think going back to the buoy, it's a lot of like sometimes the buoy is like, whoa, like just kind of floating. It's just waves are crashing and it's trying to like bring the buoy back to a little bit of a neutral state.
As a new-ish mama, like how do you reach out to support and like build community when again like you're new-ish in a city place? Like what does that look like to again like grow? Because I think American culture, we are so individualistic, right? And it's like you got to do it by yourself, you got to do it on your own. And the idea of family living nearby is, an old American dream. Well, I guess I would say it's probably the new American dream, but it's an old kind of setup of what life used to be like. Now everybody is spread across the country or the world. So, what does that get to look like for you guys as, again, you're putting down roots and growing your family and building community?
I mean, I think it actually can be really hard. It's hard. I think that's the truth about it. Like when you move away from family or you don't have family that's there to support you and you have kids at home, a lot does fall on you. And I think that whole phrase of like it takes a village, that's a phrase that's stuck around for a long time because it's true. It's like when you have people around you to help, you're like, oh, thank God, like I can breathe. And yeah, so I think it's, meeting new people here has been something that like you can do it, right? You put yourself out there, you join some groups, or maybe your kid goes to a school and you start to meet people that way. But it does take some vulnerability here to put yourself out there and to ask for support. And I think that can be tough for a lot of people is like because especially like in the American mindset of like do it on your own and you've got this, you can do it. Like that very much voice that still can be present with me. And I have friends here that maybe I've known less than a year that are like, Anna, like you should have called me. Like we could have taken your son or right. So I think it's just remembering like people want to help. Most people want to be a part of our life and they want to help and they want to be, we all want community. And I think we're relearning how to live within a collective together because I think people are, feeling lonely and they want to be together and whether your family's blood or not, like you want family where you live. So putting yourself out there is probably the most important piece here and just asking people that you might not know that well and trusting that they can help you. They want to help.
Mm, that's beautiful. I think it was Priya Parker recently talked about when it comes to like American culture, like everybody wants to be in a village, but nobody wants to be a villager. And I might be getting that
Yeah, yeah.
completely wrong, but
Love
essentially,
that.
like everybody wants community, but nobody wants to do the work of what it
Yeah.
takes to be in community. And
Yeah.
I'm curious if you feel that way here, if you feel that way back in America, like your relationship to that and how even maybe as a new-ish mom, you have a different perspective with that.
Mm. Yeah, it's so funny because the like I was always I like wanted that my whole life, just like a lot of community and like everyone helping each other, grabbing if I had a baby, grabbing the baby and helping. And I was in a relationship a long time ago where he was like very open house policy, open door policy. And I like had such a hard time with it. I was like, what the heck? Like, y'all gotta be, booking your time. You can't just walk into our house. And I think that there's something about community that it's definitely like both people have to lean into it. If you want community, like you have to be willing to get a little bit uncomfortable with the fact that people are gonna help you. And if they're going to be close to you, they're going to see you on your days that are hard, on your days that are bad, on your days that you're like, I'm a really bad mom, like, like I can't handle him, like whatever. And so I think that's just a part of it. It's just a practice of being like, we're all human beings. We all want it. But yeah, it does require work and it does require this level of trusting that, like, when you like lean backwards, right? And you have people hold you, that kind of practice where you lean back and people are holding you. It's like, it's really uncomfortable at first. You're like, well, I don't know. You're gonna hold me or what? I don't know you. But I think it's practicing, over and over and over again. And I think I've gotten a lot better at being like looking at strangers now and being like, they're like, they're in it just like me. And if I don't have to like do things on my own. I don't have to like carry the bag of like, I'm by myself here, like, and I think I can ask people. And I ask a lot more here than I think I ever did in the States, just because I was almost forced to. If you want to have some form of family here, you kind of have to put yourself out there a bit more and say, look, I'm like really vulnerable and exposed, but like I trust you enough to help me.
Yeah, I think you nailed it right there of that vulnerability. I mean, it's vulnerable to ask for help. It's vulnerable to share all sides of ourselves with people, and I think specifically in America, we can have this like, I only let people come over when the house is clean,
Yeah.
kind of mentality, right? When
Yeah.
like that's not reality. And so it's like, can we let people in with the messy, with the pleasant, with the clean, with the organized, with the shit together, with the shit not together, with the packed lunch, without it, like whatever it is. But it's vulnerable to let all of those parts of ourselves be seen. And so I love that you're saying that, like permission to be vulnerable and to step into that kind of messiness. And that's also where like realness, like that's life, like don't we all want
Yeah.
to live more in life with each other versus these like
Yeah.
picture perfect shit together moments?
And it's like if you show up a little bit messy, it gives so much more permission for the other person to show up a little bit messy. And it's like, yeah, we're all going through for the same goal, which is like I want an authentic life and I want to feel like received and witnessed. And it's like that happens when we can be like, oh my God, I am not put together today and my house looks like crap. And it's like those are the moments I've felt that that I've made friends here that I've made that people have been like, I love you. I'm like, what? Like today? I'm crying or I haven't brushed my hair. Like, so I think we all want it. And I think it's just one of us having to take that tiny first little step forward and being like, okay, I'll show you mine if you show me yours kind of vibe.
Yeah, and that permission of like we create also more depth with one another when we can both show up that way. And then if you're leading by example and creating that kind of energy.
Mhm.
As you've become a mom, like what has the process been in getting to know this new side of you, this new role, and also maybe grieving the older parts of you? Like how has the journey been into motherhood?
I mean, it's definitely not linear. And I kind of thought like I knew like healing's not linear and things happen, grief's not linear, but like I kind of thought motherhood was like a straight shot up, you like start at the beginning, you don't know much, and then you like get better and better and better. That's not that's not how I'm experiencing it. I think that there are lots of like, whoa, like chutes and ladders, that game, right? It's like you just like one day you're kind of going down and the next you're like climbing up. And then so there's lots of ebbs and flows. And I think lots of grief. I think if somebody moves abroad and they knew themselves as a specific type of person with their friends in the States, let's say, and then you move abroad, it's like you change naturally, you become different. You're seeing life differently, you're seeing how people live differently, you're experiencing different things. And I think a lot of us just want to hold on to what's familiar, right? Like with certainty, even there's like we want predictability, we want all these things. So we'll try to hold on to all the bits of us, all the memories of like, this is how I was, so I could be like this again. And I think the game of life is really kind of asking us to be like, just like let yourself go. You're playing the game of shoots and ladders. Like sometimes you're just gonna go down. Doesn't mean you've backtracked. You just like try again. And I think that as a mom, that's been like a really helpful lesson for me, like to be like that I'm literally playing that game. And we just went down 3 flights of stairs of like, we're starting at the beginning again, and we're gonna make our way back up one step at a time. And I think that that's okay. Like it doesn't need to go faster than that. And I think some days it's harder to believe that, but everything's a practice.
I love that visual. And just a reminder to be in the game of life, that we're not hustling to get to this destination or that the journey is not going to look like this perfectly laid out,
Yeah.
that there's these ups and downs and twists and turns that we talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel like we could keep chit-chatting about this, so we'll have to maybe have you back on the pod.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom and your insight. Where can people learn more about you and stay connected to your work?
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, I feel like this could go on for hours. So I appreciate you opening up this conversation. People can find me at my website, annaprestoncoaching.com, or my Instagram, which is like 2 underscores Anna Preston. But yeah, lots of good things going on over there and lots of offerings. So thank you for letting me into your community and your world.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Centered in the City podcast. As you allow all of this goodness that was talked about today just to simmer in your own heart, mind, body, I welcome you to think about what is one takeaway you have, or one curiosity that's lingering, or one way that you felt seen, or spark of inspiration you maybe had. And share with Anna and I on Instagram. We love hearing from you. We want to keep this conversation going. So reach out And I welcome you to share this episode with somebody in your community who maybe is thinking about moving abroad or recently moved abroad or is a new mama in transition. Share this episode with them, share your takeaway with them, let this conversation build, and let's support each other staying centered in this crazy thing called life. Thank you for letting me into your ears, your heart, your mind. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And until next time, stay centered.